Okay, and hopefully you guys are all seeing a title slide here with a bunch of pumpkins. Hope you're feeling festive, and again, welcome back from break. Um, with the Passion Project really being the anchor of the 10th grade Pathways design, let me go ahead and mute this sound here. That is, sorry. Okay, with respect to our Passion Project and how we're kind of chugging along here, um, a couple key points I want to make clear. This project is going to be more or less complete in April. So I think there were a couple questions that had come up. People were thinking that the project was due before we went on fall break. Let's use the example of playing the guitar. I've used this example previously. You're never done getting better at the guitar, right? So you can learn all your open chords and your bar chords and uh, a bunch of different scales or whatever, and that'd be a phenomenal leap from somebody who has never picked up a guitar in the span of 7 months. If you were to learn those skills, that'd be really, really great. Are you going to be Jimi Hendrix at that point? Probably not. If you are, phenomenal. Maybe then you're going to become Prince. Who knows? Just keep getting better. And don't fight me about who's the better guitarist. Maybe I'm wrong there. But if it's the development of a skill, or if you're learning to bake and you're getting a recipe that becomes perfect, make it more perfect, right? So we have about 7 months to develop some sort of a skill or build the doghouse or the go-kart or whatever the if it's the skill or the product, either way, totally fine. But we're looking to be wrapping up sometime in April. So um, just kind of keep that timeline in mind. Let's see here. We're going to jump in and talk a little bit about what we're doing for this quarter. This is a very quick quarter. We've got a Thanksgiving break in the middle. But at this point, last quarter really was that planning stage of the design cycle. And now we are looking at moving into the actual doing stage. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of what you're doing during school. And we will introduce a new hyperdoc. We'll just jump right into that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about project time management and how you can use your time best in school during Pathways, and as well as sort of how to balance what you're doing outside of school for this project. So here is our scope and sequence for second quarter. This is posted on Google Classroom. So for today, we are just really doing that introduction of this very document. We're going to talk about a lot of the ongoing reflection. I'm sorry, the hyperdoc, not this document. We're going to talk about the ongoing reflection, which is going to be sort of the accountability measure for the project during this quarter. And then more or less, you guys have a work day to work on your project. And we'll talk about, again, sort of that balance of what you can do during school and what you can do outside of school. We'll give some examples for that. Next week, we've got a representative from the National Strength and Conditioning Association to talk about a whole host of careers under the Strength and Conditioning Association. Again, this is why we bring in the experts. This is not my area of expertise, but hoping to kind of get a little bit more career exploration opportunities for you. There is going to be a series of ongoing reflections for your passion project, basically progress report. We've got our break coming up, and you'll have a week off. We just got off a break with another break coming up. And then you can see this is a really short, we've only got 7 pathways from today until, week before finals. So we are going to jump into our Tallo profile. Many of you created a Tallo digital portfolio last year. If you transferred into Vista New this year, that may be unfamiliar to you. That's okay. We'll kind of get into more of the details of that. But basically, this is like a super online digital resume in which you can show off your best work. So we're going to be either updating that for probably most of you or creating that for students who are new. And then it's straight into winter break. We're not doing anything on finals week. So this is a pretty punchy, quick quarter here. So let's jump into, let me make sure I get my chat up here. I got something in the chat already. Oh no. It says I'm cutting out. Are you guys hearing me okay? I don't know if I headsets plugged in firmly. Choppy. Okay. I'm going to unplug my headset. You're going to hear a little bit more background noise, but hopefully at least be consistent. Okay. And then I'm seeing that the internet connection itself was a little choppy. Let me turn this back off. Okay. Hopefully we are connecting real clear. If there are any questions or things where you heard half the sentence that I said, please do drop those in the chat for clarification. Okay, and so it looks like we've got probably a variety of network quality throughout the building. Maybe it was or not my headset, it might be the internet, but we will push on. So the scope and sequence is on Google Classroom. This is just again, the general overview of what we're doing for this very short quarter. We have requested through the Pikes Peak Business Education Alliance, which again, many students will be familiar with as we were creating accounts last year in Pathways. But if not, basically that's an organization that allows us to connect with different people in industry, businesses, whatnot, and bring them in or get you out into work-based learning. And so we tentatively have requested guest speakers in the areas of leadership. We reached out to somebody at NASA, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and construction careers. I think we've also got some culinary requests out there. We're kind of casting a wide net and hopefully getting people in here to talk about careers that might appeal to everybody on some level or some people on a great level. So stay tuned for that. Those again are sort of pending, and if that happens, we may end up kind of bumping things and readjusting our schedule a little bit. Just want to keep you posted on that. But we are looking forward definitely to the National Strength and Conditioning Association guest speaker coming in next week. And after they come in, for the people who are interested in those more targeted career pathways under those categories, that we're looking at doing some workshops during Pathways with smaller groups of people, and they've got a whole team of people that they're happy to send out here and do some really cool stuff with us. So looking forward to that. I'm going to jump right into the Passion Project HyperDoc. This is effectively the big assignment for second quarter. I got a couple emails from students over break and also last night. Your first quarter HyperDoc is your grade for first quarter. So it's really, that's a make or break you type of thing. And so we've got here from last quarter, basically the same thing, is that you have an assignment on Google Classroom that you type directly into, and let's see here. Okay, so questions about the HyperDoc. So basically, we're just looking at oh my goodness, what will be the main assignment for second quarter as well. So at this point in the design cycle, if we talk about plan, act, revise, reflect, these different steps through the design cycle, right now we're really in that act step. First quarter, you should have basically planned out
the map of where you're going for the next 6 months for your project. Now we're really working on the project. And so the hyperdoc here is going to be kind of checking in with ongoing reflections. It is going to be a little bit repetitive. However, consider this more like a journal exercise. So when you're journaling and you're sort of map or reflecting as an ongoing process on your project, that's what really this hyperdoc is going to be for this quarter. So really you're doing the project and then kind of giving us progress updates. And so we've got these reflection questions about what's going well, what is challenging, what do you need help with, and what are next steps. And you're going to see these questions repeatedly, as that is just more or less the progress checks. So that is what we're asking you to complete today, is to jump into this hyperdoc and complete this section, not the whole thing. This is not due today. We've got the guest speaker next week. Keep working on your project. Another reflection check-in on November 11th and the 16th. Then you're off for Thanksgiving break. Again, a great time to work on your project, get your hands dirty. Then we're going to jump into Tallo, which is that digital portfolio, and we're going to keep working on that. And then we're going to wrap up. Your hyperdoc is going to be due on December 14th. And again, I can't state this enough, this is an ongoing passion project that is going to be wrapped up around April. So let's talk a little bit about the project time management, and then I've got to jump on with the ninth graders here in just a few minutes. Okay, so for project time management, I spoke with the student yesterday, and we had I think a great conversation about a passion project about baking. And if you're in a classroom that does not have an oven or a sink and all the equipment and the ingredients or whatever, like clearly during Pathways, you're not baking, right? And I would say for the majority of these projects, from all the students I've talked to, you're not going to be practicing your fast pitch for baseball in this classroom. There's a ton of things that don't take place during Pathways. There we go. Gotcha, Mr. Santiago. There's a bunch of things that are going to not be feasible in that classroom during Pathways. So rather than kind of spin our wheels and whatever, not be able to accomplish anything, I'd like to break down sort of what an example might look like of how you are spending your time, right? And so the student I talked to yesterday, we talked about a project that involved baking and an element of service. So potentially baking and then providing food to people that are in need, right? Let me switch over to another tab. So in this project, there was the potential to have like a recipe book. And I've got multiple students. I use this as an example, and I have multiple students that kind of locked onto this idea of like a family recipe book or a certain type of cuisine as something they'd like to pursue. And so in that, maybe you're scouring the internet and gathering up different recipes, and then what are you doing with those? Are you copying, pasting those into a Google Doc? Are you adapting them and sort of reinterpreting them into your own, interpretation of the recipe and putting them on a folder on Google Drive with a bunch of different Google Docs? Or are you putting this into something like a food blog, right? So if you're going to gather recipes, and here's just an example that we're looking at here, where this is just a baking blog, right? And you can see they've got things separated out into different categories. There are a ton of different free website creation tools, like Wix is the one that we've had a lot of students use in the past. And in this, and this is a district approved tool as well. In this tool, you could potentially gather a variety of recipes, family recipes, and organize them into something that's presentable, right? You could also take all your recipes and just drop them straight into, for example, something like a Google Doc, right? And it could be just an 80-page Google Doc, however it is. This is the kind of work that you can do where you're documenting what you're doing for your project during Pathways in school, where of course you're not actually baking the brownies or whatever it may be in the classroom, but you're doing the legwork and the research for the more conceptual pieces, right? So let's see here, questions in the chat. So basically, when we come back to this idea of the project time management, that there are, maybe you're doing a project about martial arts. There are tons and tons of research elements that you could gather and put into some sort of even a slideshow presentation format that you can do during Pathways that don't involve you kicking through a board, right? Same thing with building the go-kart. Maybe we can't have oil dripping around and Mr. Cox's classroom, a bunch of oil spilling out of the go-kart or whatever. We can't maybe do that. But certainly you could be doing the research about the different components and the parts, right? And the processes of how to put the parts together and documenting that in a slideshow, on a blog, on Wix, a Google Doc, whatever it may be. So think about how you can really make this process clear about your research, your planning, your action. We'll have that ongoing reflection in your HyperDoc. That's going to be the main assignment for this quarter. And just kind of think about how you're balancing that time. So I do have to jump off here in a hot minute. Please do. Okay, we got a lot of people having tons of problems with the internet. I'm going to post this recording shortly after today onto Google Classroom. Actually, it might be a little bit later today. I got to go proctor an exam. But we will make sure that you have access to this recording. And please review this. Again, everything really overview is going to be in the scope and sequence and the HyperDoc, both of which have been posted to Google Classroom for all of you. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I will attempt to jump into as many classrooms as I can during this Pathways period after I am done giving a little presentation about Tallow to the 9th graders in 30 seconds. So you guys all have a great day. I'm going to abruptly jump off. And yeah, shoot me any questions you have, and I hope to see you soon.